What's up, everybody? Turn God Possibilities here to give you part 2 of What If Rimuru Reincarnated into Fairy Tale. Well, since this is uploading right after part 1, I don't think there's much need for a recap, except I forgot to mention a few things. That right after Great Sage told him that he's emitting a menacing aura, he does the same thing when he first met the goblins in the original one, and sucks it up and neutralizes a good percentage of how much aura he's letting out. So yeah, which he does this right before spitting out Natsu, and that's it. Let's get to the video, starting now. We continue our story right after Rimuru, right after Natsu and Lucy and Happy freak out seeing Rimuru turn into a naked blue-haired version of Natsu. Which then Rimuru realizing he doesn't have any clothes, and tells them, "Could you three give me a minute or two?" Scratching the back of his head while he backs up and goes behind that ice pillar he came behind. Uh, that ice pillar he jumped from behind earlier from part 1. So yeah, he has great sage if they can use those clothes to pull out those to make some clothes or something for him out of the monster parts and the clothes from Veldora's friend's corpse, the clothes that were still on his bones or whatever. Great Sage says, Great Sage, just going by off that, creates a copy of what analyzed from Natsu's clothing, creating a scarf made from the black serpent scales, and along with um, restoring the clothes from Veldora's human friend's corpse, using some of the fur from spiders, bats, and all other monsters he killed and ate in the lower underground caverns, which then the clothing just seeps out of his body and starts covering him, thinking this actually looks, which he thinks in his head, saying this looks pretty nice. He pretty much looks like the Rimuru you see in the thumbnail. So yeah, which then, when he was about to come behind the ice pillar again, he sees the guy he remembered he spat out of that Vulcan when he ate it. And remember seeing he's injured, and he asks Great Sage if they can make a potion or whatever. He's able to use the herbs he collected from earlier to create one of those potions that are in the form of a water balloon. He's about to throw it, but not just, "What are you about to do?" He gets in front of the way before Rimuru can throw it. Says, "What are you about to do to Makao?" Rimuru says, "Don't worry, I'm about to heal him." What? Trust me, if I was gonna hurt him, I would have done so already, as you can tell from earlier, which Natsu somewhat hesitantly lets Rimuru through, and he throws the healing balloon at Makao, healing him, but he still unconscious, which all three of them mentioned, well, are in awe that he was actually able to heal him. And from what they can tell, he healed him completely. After that, Natsu and the Lucy and Happy somewhat asked, "So who are you?" Rimuru says, scratch, goes. He says, "Name's Rimuru Tempest. I'm, well, he's then, well, tells him who he is. He feels like he can somewhat trust him, but is hesitant towards Natsu. Because, from what Great Sage picked up from analyzing Natsu, that there's some sort of there's a second seal on him, which has demon origins. He's a little hesitant, but he says that he's a slime, a human who died and reincarnated as a slime. But I'm not a bad slime, slurp. He says this joke, and Happy burst out laughing, completely forgetting about the bad aura, the dark, menacing aura that was coming off of Rimuru earlier. Natsu was about to laugh, but then he remembered the dragon he saw a few minutes ago, and he says, well, right before he asks, he introduced himself, thinking it would be rude if he doesn't introduce himself. He says, I'm Natsu Dragnioff, fairy tale. Lucy hesitantly introduced herself as well. She's Lucy, a recently new member of Fairy Tale, and Happy introduced himself as Happy, and Natsu's best friend, and also a member of Fairy Tale. And Natsu introduced Makao for him, saying, "That's Makao. We came here to rescue him we heard that he went on a job request, and he hasn't been back in about several days or so. We came to save him. To check, see if he was doing okay. If he wasn't, save him." Rimuru's somewhat taken aback, but then that's when Natsu asks, "So why did I see a dragon a few minutes ago?" Rimuru says, "I've been trapped down in these caves for about several days. I don't even know how long I've been down there. I ran into a dragon who was sealed, and he pretty much explains his entire situation, that he reincarnated and that he met a dragon who was sealed behind a barrier in the lower parts of the caverns, named Veldora the Storm Dragon. He became friends with it, and he used one of his quote unquote skill / magic abilities to eat said barrier, which eating Veldora, in turn eating both the barrier and Veldora, in the hope of able to analyze the barrier to remove it. Which Natsu's taken aback by this. And also, after that, he says, "What did you mean that you were going to say the same thing to me?" Rimuru hesitantly replies that when you attacked me and I accidentally ate you, essentially, I analyzed you, though I couldn't analyze you completely, but to enough where I was able to turn into to physically turn into you and acquire your Fire Dragon Slayer magic. And when one of my other skills, magics, which you could, he tries to think of a way to explain Great Sage. Then Great Sage says that in this world there's this thing called archive magic. You could say I am an advanced version of archive magic. Which then he explains that he has something like an advanced version of archive magic. Which, when he used it to analyze you, he detected a seal on you that was holding a dragon. He couldn't tell specifically what kind of dragon or who it was, but he can tell that there was a dragon sealed inside of you. Which then, Natsu, right away, when he says this, he sweat drops and says, "There's a dragon sealed inside me?" Then he thinks right away and yells in happiness, cries, thinking, if any dragon sealed inside of me, it has to be Igneal. There's no doubting it. He cries, thinking he finally found Igneal, which Lucy is in shock, thinking, how in the hell is there... Lucy and Happy are somewhat freaking out, thinking, how is there a dragon sealed inside of how is an entire dragon sealed inside of a human? But at the same time, Happy's crying tears of happiness for Natsu finally finding Igneal somewhat. But then the waterworks stop for both Happy and Natsu, with Natsu getting angry and pissed about which then he yells, "Igneal, what the hell? Why are you sealed inside of me?" Which he tries. Then he punches himself in the stomach, knocking him out. Ding, 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 knocking himself out. Which sweat dropped off Rimuru's head, thinking, and ask Happy and Lucy, how dumb is he? Happy replies, extremely. Oh. Which Rimuru says, well, if you don't mind, do you mind if I come with y'all? I don't know my way out of here. Which they patch... that's when Makao wakes up and... well, he woke up when Natsu started crying, right when he says the part where Igneal sealed inside... when they mentioned the part about Igneal being sealed inside of Natsu. He woke up, introduced himself, and yeah, we skip about a couple minutes with them, all five of them about to get into a carriage to head back to Magnolia. Which, right when they both Natsu's, exactly the same, refusing to get on it, which he's forced on it by Makao, saying, "Do you want to walk the whole way?" When he sees how Natsu is and thinks, oh, what's wrong with him? Right as he asks that, he gets on the wagon and starts feeling sick, and he transforms back into a regular slime, unable to move, thinking, what's going on? Great Sage says, this is the weakness of all first generation Dragon Slayer, of all Dragon Slayers, but from first to third generation. They all share one weakness, and that's motion sickness. Rimuru somewhat cursing himself in his mind, thinking, why the hell did I get Dragon Slayer magic in the first place? Oh, why me? Which then that's when everyone's somewhat thinking, what? Why does he have motion sickness just like Natsu? He replies that his magic great sage just told him that it's a weakness all dragon slayers have from first to third generation. Which Lucy and Macau and Happy, along with, well, a barely conscious Natsu here. Which then Lucy picks up the slime ball Rimuru and think, without that weird, aura, you're kind of cute. Well, just like in the regular one, they fought, you know how the barkeeper, those people at the bar or whatever, when the dwarves took him drinking and to dance, you know what I mean. How the waiters, the female waiters, thought that Rimuru was cute, wanted to hold him, and all that. So yeah, Rimuru somewhat feels like ease, but he's still sick to his stomach. That's when we skip a couple hours. We get back. They're back at Magnolia. It's a little late. That's when Natsu bursts down the doors to the guild hall, saying, "We found we found Macau! And a new member for Fairy Tail! Along with, I finally figure out where Igneel is! I finally found Igneel," which, right after he says that, everyone in the guild who were sitting somewhere just fell off what they were sitting on, and then stand up and saying, "What?" With everyone in the guild saying that, freaking out. Which I accidentally forgot something. No, in the ice cave, well, before they got on the carriage, Macau asked if he wanted to join Fairy Tail. Well, Rimuru wasn't against joining. I mean, he doesn't know much about this world, and it wouldn't hurt to get a job already, or whatever. Which, on his way, even though he was sick, he was asking Great Sage, what are guilds? And Great Sage explained it to him, and he said, okay, I'd like to join. Which we get back to after Natsu tells them. He explains that sorry, I had a little bit of indigestion there. But yeah, everyone in the guild freaks out, and after saying what, that's the first person to come up and say something else is actually surprisingly Gray. Even though he hates Natsu, he's happy for him. He finally found Igneel. He congratulates Natsu and asks, where is he? That's when he says, he's sealed inside of me. Everyone is pretty much goes white and dumbfounded on his answer. And they ask, could he elaborate? That's when Rimuru says, hell, it was me. I sort of ran into him at the Mount Hakube, which they see the blue-haired Natsu. A blue-haired Natsu, and that's, what? Why is this guy, why is there another Natsu? And blue hair, for that matter? Luce Macau somewhat explained, Rimuru explains that he's a slime who, he says he's a human who reincarnated as a slime. Who was reincarnated as a slime. And gained some pretty interesting powers. To pretty much eat, where he can eat anything and gain their powers. Analyze them, their forms, powers, and anything. As well as a power called the advanced version of Archive, somewhat. He doesn't tell him about his Dragon Slayer magic, which he does mention that he gained dragons. Other than the Fire Dragon Slayer magic he gained from Natsu, he tells Natsu, Lucy, and Macau, along with Happy, that he learned Storm Dragon Slayer magic from the Storm Dragon Veldora that he met in the caverns. He doesn't say he has Dragon Slayer magic, though. That's when... sorry if I'm all over the place with this what if, but this is the first time doing... it's mostly fairy tale, but... the main thing is... sorry. I'm a little nervous, so yeah. Let's continue on with the story. Where did I leave off? He explains that he's a slime. He explains he's a slime, and he accidentally ate Natsu when Natsu tried to attack him attacks him right when he sees him. And when he did, he analyzed Natsu and found some an abnormality in him, which prevented him from scanning him, from analyzing him completely, which, that's when he found that there was some sort of dragon still inside of him. He couldn't tell who it was or what kind of dragon it was. So then, after he says that, Gray says, so it could be any dragon, not specifically Igneo. Natsu says, who else would it be? And then those two start fighting, with Natsu getting angry at Gray's comment, thinking it's definitely Igneo. Which then, after that, he walks up to the counter, walks to the guild, introducing himself to pretty much getting to know some of the guild members, which he meets Master Makarov. Master Makarov wants to actually have a talk with Rimuru, because even though Rimuru's somewhat suppressing his very intense magic aura, Makarov can definitely sense it. While Natsu and Gray get into a fight, grabbing the attention of the other guild members, Makarov asks to talk to him, which Mary Jane's actually still there at the bar, at the desk, and actually overhears their conversation. Actually, she was there in the conversation. He tells him that he was a human. He tells him the full story. Makarov can somewhat tell that he's somewhat dangerous, but he just tells him the truth to at least get him, his suspicions off him. or whatever. Makarov understands. I mean, you're a human who's not from this world particularly, but died and reincarnated here as a monster, pretty much. And no, Rimuru says, pretty much. So, you want to join Fairy Tail, huh? Well, not too off. They told me about it, and I thought, what? Said I could join. I mean, he's thankful I helped him finally find Igneo, pretty much. He says, yeah, it seems fun. And plus, I don't know where to go. Though he does say that he would like help with something. Makarov asks, oh, what is it? He's hoping to find someone. Makarov somewhat asks, oh, who is it? I can't really say it right now, but it's a request from Veldora. He said he met a human. Well, that's all he says. He met a human about maybe 100 years ago. He lost track. He met a human who found him sealed, and made friends with him, but he hasn't heard from her for a long time now. From said person. So yeah. He doesn't really go into specifics yet because he doesn't trust Makarov that much. He told him the rest except for that part. Except for basically the name or whatever Veldora gave to Rimuru, which I won't reveal yet either. But yeah, after that, Natsu offers Rimuru. Actually, after that conversation, he turns into his slime form to get Makarov tells him, well, get comfortable here. But, well, he says, everyone in Fairy Tail is pretty much family. So, get comfortable. Then, he just says something friendly. I can't think of anything specific, so yeah. While he's still in his human form, Mara Jane, the poster girl Fairy Tail, the white hair, says, come here, let me put stamp the guild mark on you. And Rimuru's thinking, where should I put it? He just puts out his hand, his left hand, and she stamps the Fairy Tail guild mark on it. Opposite to Lucy. He doesn't want the same spot or opposite to Natsu or something. I just thought it'd be the simplest way than just him taking off his long sleeve jacket every time if he put it on his shoulder. So yeah. Oh, well, after that, after all that happens, Natsu offers Rimuru to stay at his place, his and Happy's place. Rimuru's somewhat taken aback and actually takes him up on that offer. So, yeah. Sorry, had tickle in my throat or whatever. Well, I think I'm gonna end it off here right now. I just think I messed up a few times, but yeah. So yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. Hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And sorry for not really getting that far in in part 2. It's the first time doing what if pretty much basically that's almost completely based on fairy tale. And this is my first time doing it what if with Rimuru as well. So yeah, tell me what you guys think down in the comments, and hope you guys like this new what if this new completely new what if as a whole for my channel, which this is part of my third what if lineup I have planned, though right now I'm still on my first lineup. So yeah, this was the 3300 sub special. See you next time.